So now I just wanted to mention a couple of things that are worth doing. This paint is very, very soft. It's been sitting out in the garage for 24 hours. During that time, it's doing a thing called outgassing, where it's giving off some chemical smell, which I don't like to have in a house. So I typically wait 48 hours before I bring it in the house. And then what I do is, the paint is still soft because it dries at a very, very slow rate while it's out in the cold. Now it's under a heating vent. It'll be in a warm area, and we'll let it sit there for a few days before we touch it or do anything to it. In the meantime, I just wanted to mention to all our friends, Vlad has sent me an email a couple days ago saying he's a dealer for these products, and I didn't know he was when I started doing these. And what happened is they turned out to be pretty good. They painted up beautifully, and I can't wait to see the whole bike all in one piece. Now remember, he used color match paint. Because we painted during a time of the year where there were almost no bugs and no dust in the paint, the minimum this is going to have, the maximum is going to be basically just a little hit with the buffing wheel. I don't even think it needs that. I think if you wanted to, you could just leave it right the way it is, to be perfectly honest. But again, I'll talk to Vlad about that, and if we get snowed in again, you know, I'll hit it with the buffing wheel. But the biggest step, and it's an important part to realize right now, it's really important, is not to rush it. This paint is going to be soft at least for 2 or 3 days, maybe a week. So we have other projects to work on while that paint is curing. Now, one of our projects is going to be, while we're waiting for the paint to cure out, and again, if you rush it, there's a golden rule in finishing. When you rush things, you just make a headache for yourself. What'll happen is, and I don't know that there's any way to prove this or not, because I've taken paint, and when it used to be all acrylic lacquer, every day that you waited, it got easier and easier to buff. Butyrate dope, easier and easier to buff. Modern paint is not supposed to be like that. They tell you, and if you read all the literature, oh, buff it in 24 hours. And you can. It's just more work than if you wait. And I've heard that there's some of these urethanes, not the ones we use for sure, that are made, I mean, like, you know, for, you know, a car, where they paint your car in a half an hour and they send it out. But we don't do that, of course. So here's what I wanted to share. And I'm as guilty as anybody. This is funny. As this happened, I went for a ride. We've been riding all through the winter. Luciano and I have gone for rides. I've ridden by myself when it's really cold. And I mean, where we are here, sometimes it's in the low 30s. And then when you get up to the mountain or into Hibernia, holy mackerel. But the problem is it really, cold weather taxes a battery. That's why the first day it's freezing cold out, what happens is usually your car battery dies. Now in my case, I have an 09 car, an 09 minivan. I have two 09s. Both of them have at different times, but both of the batteries failed on the coldest day of the year, of that year. So both of them have been replaced. We got 4 or 5 years or whatever. With a car, who even cares? You just don't want to have any headaches. But in a bike, now I've heard, this is funny, Luciano's got one that's still in a bike in his Kawasaki from 04. So here I am figuring, I'll show him how tough I am. Well, I tried to get one more winter out of the battery. Yeah. It didn't work. So anyway, Luciano suggested this. He has used several of these battery tenders with good luck, of course. Now there's one advantage of this battery that I like as I open it up here. One thing I like is it's a new battery. And these batteries are a little smaller than, in other words, in a GS, the battery, a typical lead acid battery that's in a GS is just bigger than this, physically bigger. They give you all these little blocks and never throw them away because these are made, the lithium battery is it's nothing. There's no weight to this. It's like a buttered roll. But what it is, that's significant is all of these terminals, there's terminals in all 4 corners. And if you've ever retrofitted a battery, you know some of the old Kawasaki's, some of the old Suzuki's, some of the old Yamahas, it doesn't matter. what happens is you want to put the battery in this way, and you can't because the cables are in a different spot, and you can't really turn it around. Then they're on the wrong side, and they always make the cable so short that it's ridiculous. So anyway, that's one advantage. It's got 4 terminals. Number 2, of course, read all the directions. Don't go out riding with Windy when it's cold. Well, we're going to do that. We're actually looking forward to getting a ride in a couple of days. And the more days we can wait for that paint to cure out, because I know what's going to happen if I want to run a buffer on it, if I want to clean it, if I want to polish it, no matter what I want to do. Actually, it looks pretty good right now. So what I may do is have Vlad come over and say, you know, do you want to spend an extra couple $100 buffing it out? That's up to you. I'll be glad to do it, but I don't think it needs to be buffed out. I think it's pretty good just the way it is. But my point was, I've retrofit these. I have lithium batteries in 4 of the 8 motorcycles. So, and I know these little blocks, you need them to get it centered, and you don't want to have the battery in there rattling around and doing that kind of thing. Another thing that I found, this is a very small tip, but it's very useful. Let's just say pretend you have the positive, the negative. Now in my bike, I have the wires that go, I have a charger, an external charge wire, and the same wire I use for my electric vest. So what happens is that you wind up with 2 or 3 wires here, 2 or 3 here, and as soon as you take the bolts off, they go ping, and you don't even know where they go. So what I've done in the past, I've taken the 3 wires, 4, I even unbolt this, and put either a piece of black masking tape or one of the really tiny zip ties around it. Now I know these guys, they don't all just come together and, oh, where did the red one and blue one? They went there. It just can make it easier for you to do that. So anyway, that's one of our projects. And I'm going to save this for an appropriate day. I'm going to save all these. I'll try to make a dedicated video of doing it. I know there's just no, you can say what you want. There's no substitute for having, this is like the fountain of youth. Because no matter what, even if you don't maintain a battery, you'll get a couple of good years. And when you maintain it, in my case, I got 7 years out of it before it died. 6 years, 7 years, doesn't even matter. But I'll sleep better at night once that's installed. Now today I just went upstairs, I heard the door, and look what came in the mail. And this is something, let me just say this, this is really part of this thing of the GS dying. Luciano had one of these. I think his kids gave it to him for Christmas or birthday or Hanukkah or whatever. But what happened is, he has already used this to jumpstart his car several times, and I don't remember the story. That's a whole other thing. But he had told me about this several times, and how much he enjoyed the security, or his wife too, because again, she goes out in cold weather, so does Karen. In fact, just before we bought this, Karen and her daughter were in the mall, and they left the lights on in the car, and they came back from 6 hours, 4 hours later, and the dead battery. And so now that I have one of these, I'll take it on vacation, I'll take it on rides. This is really something worth having. Now, I remember in the summer, I haven't opened this up yet, so I remember in the summer, Pete had bought a BMW, and a second-hand one. Not that that matters, but he had battery issues, which anytime you get a used bike, you never know. You could have marital issues, who knows. But anyway, you do have a chance that there'll be a problem. And I don't think you're going to push start a BMW, a big heavy one, so I'm not anyway. So anyway, Luciano got this, and when I had, the motorcycle was about a half-hour ride from his house when it went bad. I called him up, and he said he was out getting ready to test one of his Kawasaki's, and he said, oh, I'll be right up. It's not a big deal, no problem. And he had this with him. Now number one, I rode home with this under my jacket. I just shoved it up under there like a bulletproof vest. Well, that was not bad, but then when I got home, I tried this just to see if it would fit in my pocket, because I want to carry this with me. Basically, when I go for a ride. That's the whole idea of having this. And this is the jacket I always wear. And it's got several pockets. And Boy, is that cheap insurance. Now, it's not only cheap insurance if you think you're riding and you get stuck like I did in, you know, some place that you want to be rescued. That's number one. Number two, if 8 or 10 bikes go for a ride, the odds that somebody will have a dead battery are 8 or 10 times bigger, especially in this really cold weather. This ensures that everybody on the ride will have a jump start if they need it. And I just think that when I priced these out, they started at $32 and they ended at $90. I got to tell you, I bought the $90 one based on Luciano's recommendation because I don't want to get stuck. It's just not for me. And number two, I'm ensuring that my friends won't get stuck either. So for the rest of, you know, and I never ride without a leather jacket or without a jacket, period. This, I checked, it even fits in the mesh jacket. So this is really something I really think is going to make my riding more enjoyable. Now what I'm going to do, of course, is totally break from tradition, and I know you'll be impressed with this. I'm going to read the directions. Obviously, this will have to be charged. I got to read with all these adapters, and you can charge your cell phone. Unfortunately, I don't have a cell phone. I have that Mickey Mouse phone. We have all these other things that hooked on, but actually, the thing is, if you're using this in like Jose has saddlebags, you just put this in a saddlebag. Well, I got to see if Pete had the same one, and it doesn't matter. I'll do this off camera. There's one to charge it. We don't have a cigarette lighter, but there's just a lot of stuff to read. I will read the directions too. And of course, what I want to make, and I don't know if I can, is I want to make a, let me show this because this is something, maybe somebody out there has a brilliant idea that I don't know about. And I've done this already, so I know it does work. What happened one day, I was stuck with one of the bikes. And what I did, I had a spare battery at the house. So I was close enough to the house. I just had Karen come down with the spare battery and a set of jumper cables and one of these connectors. And I had a connector with 2 alligator clips on it. I put it on the battery and started the bike. But I don't know if you can do that through that wire that goes to the bike. I'm gonna have to see if that works. We'll find out. I got plenty of things to play with in the next couple of days. I know there's got to be a well, here's the charger and whatever. So it's a lot of stuff. But again, I am really going to break with tradition and read the directions. And in the meantime, all the things that are going on here in the past couple of days, this paint has now been sitting up there for, this is going to be 3 days, the 3rd day anyway. And it's just getting better and better and better. And I'm going to wait another day or so and then decide what the next step is going to be. Probably I'll call Vlad, see if he wants to do any further buffing on this, and which we'll be glad to do for more. He might want to take it just the way it is. When I've looked at it real close, it really does look pretty good. It is, and this is color match paint, and it just couldn't be any nicer than this. So anyway, hope you've enjoyed the video, and as I say, hanging up the laundry here. I guess this is the laundry. I don't know. Anyway, thanks for watching.